Can you confirm this for me? It's so hard being a walk-pilled cardio maxer in a car cell gas-cucked state like Arizona. I may have read this last stream, but there's a comment on this that I wanted to reply to, which is from Puke Girl here. Again, a very sort of pleasant and erudite way to present yourself on the internet, who says, I always found it interesting how everyone regards 4chan as the internet's armpit, and yet its linguistic quirks very consistently hemorrhage into the mainstream. I'd like to make it quite clear, chat, that the origin of a really large portion of our culture's culture is 4chan. I'm sure most of you already know that, but the reason that so many of these terms start on 4chan, I suspect, is because 4chan is completely anonymous, so there's very little inhibition on speech, so people will try things without it needing to be attached to their name, and there's almost no censorship. I think on 4chan there is some these days, but very little. And so there's an absolute maximum rate of free speech, an absolute maximum rate of the interaction of different opinions smashing against each other in this place. It also may have a good format for it. The thread-based format may be better than other formats for this kind of thing. This is also why you get a lot of the entire style of like MS Paint memes with the Pepe and the Wojak and all kinds of other things are because, as far as I know, on 4chan you have like each thread is an image. It's about an image, so you have to have an image. So if you want to post an opinion about something, you want to post something that's text-based, you still have to include an image. So sometimes people would go and Google something, but maybe if there wasn't anything appropriate, they just pick a funny face and draw it in MS Paint. That's my guess for where that came from, because Pepe wasn't originally drawn in MS Paint. It was originally drawn as a comic. Someone must have seen the comic and just drawn that version of it for 4chan. Something like that. You guys are
How
still
much of the
talking about
internet's
roads.
lingo can be traced directly back to Terry A. Davis? And if you think 4chan language isn't completely ubiquitous, run in the chat if you reckon like your mother knows about the general concept of rickrolling. Because I have a bridge to sell you on the origins of that term.
It might do now. Probably wouldn't have done 10 years ago. So 4chan may just be the perfect little cauldron to generate new mimetic terms and imagery, which is why it's a very important cultural institution. Don't doubt it. It is in some cases the internet's armpit or the internet's asshole, but not in that is where content from the internet ends up when it's at its lowest quality, but because that's where it starts. Where most things created there, most things posted there are nonsense and trash and useless to anyone. But because it's so free, there's some really interesting and novel stuff there that will spread very well. Just like in any other context where I talk a lot of the time about most new ideas are bad, but some of them are good, and so you need to have the constant experimentation. And all of society filters for the good ideas and tries to implement the good ideas. That's what 4chan's doing. It's a small part of that larger pattern, but it's a very important part. It may be the most influential source of new culture in the world today, actually. Just about, you know, compare that to the entirety of Hollywood. But Hollywood isn't producing particularly culturally influential material these days. They're just producing propaganda. 4chan is producing culturally influential material, not material that has a particularly directable influence, but material that spreads to everywhere. All of these terms, I believe, either originated on 4chan or popularized there or in similar places. Memes a suppository, yeah, Voodoo, that might be true. Stasi, anyone that says 4chan is just these days, I assume they've only browsed 4chan for a couple of days. And I cannot claim to have browsed it either very long ago or very frequently. But I did for a few months, a couple of years ago, browse it sort of every day, just to see what kind of thing is posted there. And I think during that time I gained a relatively good understanding of how it works. Most of the content on there is trash. Not worth your time to even click on. Some of it hasn't been posted anywhere else and is actually interesting. Duck rolling. I'm not sure. I hadn't heard of duck rolling actually much.
I think it comes from just like the image of, you know, the little kids' toys they have where it's like the duck on wheels?
Maybe.
Like the duck on wheels that you like pull along. I think it's that.
Okay.
I'm not the best person to ask. I know this because Scrum talked about it, as is the case with all of my knowledge of internet things from before I was born.
Fair enough.
Not before I was born, but before I was born on the internet, I guess.
Yep. Fair enough.